Picture this. A millionaire collapses in a small-town diner. His heart stops beating. A waitress with barely enough money to cover rent drops everything and fights to bring him back to life. What happened next? It wasn't just a thank you. It was something that would change an entire community forever. Stay with me. This story will restore your faith in humanity. Before we dive in, let me ask you something. Have you ever helped a stranger and wonder if it actually mattered? Drop a comment and let me know, because Tiana Brooks asked herself that same question for years. October 2019, Atlanta, Georgia. Tiana was 29 years old, working the late shift at a southern diner that smelled like grease and old coffee. Her feet ached. Her student debt sat at $47,000, a weight that made her dreams feel like fantasies. She wanted to open her own cafe, serve the soul food her grandmother taught her to make, create something beautiful. But every paycheck disappeared before it arrived. She was tired, stuck, barely surviving. Yet every single night, she showed up, she smiled at customers, she poured coffee, she kept going. Then, one ordinary Tuesday night, everything changed. It was 11:47 p.m. Tiana was wiping down booth 4 when the door swung open. A man walked in, older, maybe mid-60s, wearing an expensive suit that looked out of place in a diner like this. But something was wrong. His face was ghost white. His movements were unsteady, almost robotic. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. Then he collapsed. The sound of his body hitting the floor still echoes in Tiana's memory. Time slowed down. Other customers froze. Someone screamed, but Tiana didn't freeze. She ran to him, dropped to her knees, checked for a pulse, nothing. He wasn't breathing. Her co-worker grabbed the phone and dialed 911. But Tiana knew the truth. In moments like this, every second matters. She remembered the free CPR class she'd taken 2 years earlier at the local community center. She'd almost skipped it that day. Almost. She positioned her hands on his chest and started compressions. 1, 2, 3. She counted out loud, her voice shaking. 30 compressions. 2 rescue breaths. Again and again. Sweat dripped down her face. Her arms burned. The man's lips were turning blue. Was it working? She didn't know. She just kept going. 2 minutes felt like 2 hours. Then a gasp. Air rushed into his lungs. His chest rose. Paramedics burst through the door seconds later, taking over. They loaded him onto a stretcher and disappeared into the night. Tiana stood there, hands trembling, heart pounding. A customer patted her shoulder. Her manager told her to take a break. She went back to wiping down booth 4. She thought that was the end of it. Just another wild night at the diner. But the story didn't end there. 3 weeks passed. Tiana had almost forgotten about the man when a delivery arrived at the diner. A box of expensive chocolates. A handwritten note on cream-colored stationery. It read, "You saved my life. I can never repay you, but I will never forget you. Richard Langford." Tiana stared at the name. It sounded vaguely familiar, but she couldn't place it. A co-worker gasped. "Wait, Richard Langford? The real estate guy? He owns half the buildings downtown. He's worth millions." Tiana's hands went numb. The man she saved wasn't just anyone. He was a reclusive millionaire. Someone who moved through the city like a ghost, known by reputation but rarely seen. He'd built an empire buying and selling properties, but somewhere along the way, he'd lost connection with people. He had money, power, success. But the night he collapsed in that diner, none of it mattered. Here's my question for you. What would you do if someone whose life you saved wanted to meet you face to face? Would you go? Would you be nervous? Drop a comment below. I want to know what you'd do. Because Tiana was terrified. For months later, Richard reached out again. This time, he asked to meet her in person. Tiana agreed, though her stomach twisted with nerves the entire drive to his office. She walked into a building with marble floors and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Atlanta skyline. Everything screamed wealth. She felt out of place in her thrift store dress. But when Richard walked in, he didn't look like a millionaire. He looked like a man who'd been given a second chance and didn't want to waste it. He sat across from her and said something she'll never forget. That night, I collapsed. I was alone. I'd spent 20 years building an empire, and I realized I had no one, no family nearby, no close friends. I was dying in a diner, and the only person who cared enough to save me was a stranger who had every reason to walk away. Tiana's throat tightened. Richard continued, "You didn't hesitate. You didn't see a rich man or a poor man. You saw a human being, and that changed me." Then he made an offer that shattered her world. "I want to pay off your student debt. All of it. And I want to fund your dream, the cafe you've been talking about opening." Tiana's breath caught. Tears blurred her vision. "Why?" she whispered. "Why me?" Richard smiled. A real smile, not the polished kind rich people give at charity galas. "Because you didn't think twice. You gave me everything when you had nothing. Let me give you a chance to do the same for others." One night, 2 lives, forever changed. 2 years later, Tiana's table opened its doors in the heart of Atlanta. It wasn't just a cafe. It was a sanctuary. The kind of place where the air smelled like cornbread and collard greens, where the walls were covered in photos of neighborhood, where everyone, rich or poor, was treated like family. Tiana hired single mothers who needed flexible hours. She offered free meals to seniors every weekend. And every month, she hosted free CPR classes, teaching others to do what she'd done that October night. The irony wasn't lost on her. The woman who saved a life was now teaching an entire community to save lives. Local news picked up the story. Headlines read, "The heart that brought a millionaire back to life." TV crews filmed the cafe. People traveled from across the state just to eat there, to meet Tiana, to be part of something bigger than themselves. And Richard? He became a regular. Every Sunday morning, he'd sit in booth 4, the same booth number where he collapsed, and order coffee. He donated quietly to community programs. He funded scholarships for students like Tiana once was. He'd found his humanity again, and it started with a waitress who refused to let him die. Here's what I want to know. Have you ever witnessed one act of kindness change everything? What would you do if someone gave you a second chance like this? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. So here's the truth that this story teaches us. Tiana didn't just save one man's life that night. She revived an entire community. She proved that compassion doesn't require wealth or status. It just requires showing up, caring, acting when others freeze. We walk past opportunities to change lives every single day. A stranger who needs help, a person who's struggling, a moment where we can choose kindness over convenience. We never know which moment will echo through time. We never know when 2 minutes of courage will create a lifetime of impact. You have the power to be someone's Tiana. You have the ability to see people, really see them, and choose compassion. If this story moved you, hit that like button. Subscribe for more true stories of everyday heroes who prove that goodness still exists. Share this video with someone who needs a reminder that one person can make a difference. And comment below. Tell me about a time you showed up for a stranger. I want to hear your stories. Because here's the final truth, the one that'll stay with you long after this video ends. Sometimes the heart you save saves you right back.